Have you ever felt compelled to become a social media influencer? Maybe you want a huge presence online. Well, don't watch Not Okay, because if you do, let's just say it's going to turn you away from wanting all that clout. Trust me. What's going on, everyone? James here with another real review, and today we're diving into my thoughts of Not Okay. Guys, this movie is, it's something, and it drops on Hulu July 29th, but when you see it, let me know down below in the comments exactly what you think of the movie. A huge thank you to Searchlight Pictures for giving me the chance to watch this early for review. Now, this one kind of slid under my radar, but when it was put on my radar, I looked at the cast and I thought, heck yeah, I'm in. It's directed by Quinn, Shephard, and stars Zoey Deutch, Dylan O'Brien, and Mia Isaac. And the story surrounds Danny Sanders, who's played by Zoey Deutch. She's an aimless, aspiring writer with no friends and no romantic prospects, so she goes ahead and fakes an Instagram-friendly trip to Paris in hopes of boosting her social media presence and tries to get all that clout. But things go horribly wrong. And horribly wrong might be an understatement. But guys, before we get into my thoughts on this and I tell you what I liked and what I didn't like too much about Not Okay, if it is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where I absolutely love talking about movies, TV, and all the news in between. So if you do too, go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, tap on the bell, and hit the thumbs up button. Guys, this weekend is San Diego Comic-Con, so I'm giving y'all a ton of content. We got trailer reactions, we got recaps, we got panel reactions if they put the panels up on YouTube. I am so excited for what's ahead. But guys, right now we're talking about Not Okay, so let's get into my positives and why I think this movie, for the most part, was actually okay. Now, while the story here is probably not out of the realm of possibility for millennials and Gen Zers, it's the core cast that really sold it for me. So let's start with Zoey Deutch, who plays Danny. Now, this is a character that, well, very clearly is an unlikable protagonist, and the actual frame, the first frame of this movie is telling you, warning, this movie features an unlikable lead character. So hey, go into this knowing you're not going to root for this person, and she doesn't do anything to really earn the audience's trust, but that's the purpose. And honestly, Zoey Deutch displays an incredible amount of range as an actor. She was pretty dynamic at times. Even though I loved her more grounded moments between her and Mia Isaac, I loved the over-the-top moments as well, when she's a little bit more zany, when the dialogue, yes, is laid on pretty thick, but she's able to really encapsulate this character and really dive into the role. I have no bad notes about her acting here. She absolutely, in some scenes, really just commanded your attention, and I thought she did a really good job from start to finish. There was a proper evolution for her character, and man, oh man, that final act, there are going to be some moments where you almost feel bad for her, and well, I don't all the way, but man, oh man, does she get me close. And then there's her co-star here, Mia Isaac, who plays Rowan, a character that is a survivor of a mass shooting, but my goodness, what a performance. Mia Isaac, take a bow, guys. She deserves to be nominated for awards come awards season. Not only, to me, did she actually steal the show, but there were scenes where I was like, is she the main character of this story? Because she definitely deserves a lot of praise for what she just displayed in this movie. This is really one of my favorite performances of the year. It's both coupled with realism and emotion. There are a couple moments where she has spoken word scenes where she is delivering some lines of poetry, and it is just excellent. Honestly, her acting alone is worth sitting down and watching this on Hulu. It really is mind-blowing to see what she does with the role, and at times I even forgot to blink when she was speaking. But really, those conversations again between her and Zoey Deutch were the highlights of this film. My goodness, Mia Isaac, I cannot wait to see her rise in Hollywood. She is just going to be so great. And then there's Dylan O'Brien, who many of you know of already, but he plays Colin, an influencer who's obsessed with himself and smoking a lot of weed. He's also incredibly over the top in this movie. I'm talking Dylan O'Brien himself. He bleached his hair blonde. The dude is fully into this role 110% and somehow didn't annoy me. If anything, his commitment to the role made it a better experience. Now, is he a repulsive character? Absolutely, and he represents everything wrong with this influencer culture, but my goodness, does Colin as a character really help add a little bit of flavor to this movie. Sometimes he really is the yin to Danny's yang in this movie. Goodness gracious, were there some scenes that just blew my mind in terms of how the heck could she put up with this dude. But speaking of influencers and this influencer culture, Not Okay paints the unpretty picture of social media. Now, as someone who is very familiar with social media and the various platforms and sometimes the wonderful comments, I'll be honest, Not Okay is accurate to a degree. There's a lot of commentary within this movie and its dialogue, and it plays to the crowd that is very skeptical of influencers. However, it is timely. I do think the message of this movie is not entirely wrong. I mean, I'll be completely honest, I'll be the first one to tell you, I don't need clout on social media, especially if it results in stuff like this happening. There is no reason to chase after that. Let the positive stuff come to you, you know what I mean? But man, oh man, was this movie actually pretty spot on with its commentary for the most part. And lastly, before we get into the negatives, guys, this movie's third act was really strong. Now, this isn't what I would consider an indie movie, but it has some indie movie vibes, especially at the end when we don't get much of a soundtrack or score and we get more of the acting from both Zoey Deutch and Mia Isaac. I was surprised at how much emotion was packed within the last 20 to 30 minutes of this movie. It was a strong third act, and I do think it makes everything else pretty bearable, but there are some things in the middle that I didn't love. So you know what, guys? Let's waste no more time and get right into the negatives, and it begins with this. The predictability hurts this movie. Now, I get it, this isn't supposed to be a complex plot, and honestly, the movie itself doesn't leave anything to the imagination, but we've seen something like this before. The story structure is familiar, at least if you are watching any sort of TV this year as well. I think of Inventing Anna. Inventing Anna is a show that, for me, had the fall before the rise, and then after the rise, of course, the fall again. So it shows you the character at their worst moment, and then it sort of goes back in time and shows you how they got there. That's never a bad thing, but for a movie like Not Okay, there's not a lot of complexity. It's pretty straightforward for the most part, so there are moments where scenes kind of just drag out because you know where they're going. And even though the performances were pretty strong here, I wasn't the biggest fan of the writing in some areas. Either it was completely over the top or it was really on the nose. There was no in between here. There were some moments, of course, where you can tell that the writing was finding a little bit of a groove and grounding itself in a lot of emotion, but for the most part, there are some scenes that are scripted out that just, they feel like a little much. And in these moments, it had the made-for-TV feel for me, and the humor, even though it is dark humor, didn't really hit for me. And even the oh my gosh moments were few and far between. I counted myself saying oh my gosh maybe once, but that was about it, because everything else you could kind of see coming from a mile away. Now this next point, okay, it is a negative, but it's also a positive in a weird way. I just wish we had more time with Rowan and Danny. This is the element of the film for me that was needed after we get through the typical montages showing Danny's rise in popularity. And that's really in the middle of the movie. Even though we do get glimmers of excellence between Mia Isaac and Zoey Deutch, for the most part, those montages, Danny's rise to fame, it's really just, it's not new to me. So I didn't really care for the film in those instances, and it had me kind of checking my watch. And speaking of checking the time, guys, the length of this movie is a bit of an issue. There's just really not enough substance here to really justify that 1 hour, 45-minute runtime. I think you could probably shave off a little bit in the middle, and it would have been a tighter story and movie overall. Again, all of that momentum built in the first act sort of goes away a little bit in the middle because some scenes just sort of meander or go in circles. But overall, you guys, even though this is a surface level drama comedy, it's the performances in Not Okay that separate this movie from a lot of the other similar rise and fall and con stories that we've seen before. Zoey Deutch, Mia Isaac, and Dylan O'Brien did an excellent job in this movie, and I really liked that the director just understood, hey, give them free rein, let them be wild on set sometimes. And even though moments annoyed me, frustrated me, or even upset me, guys, that was the intention. It's just everything surrounding those elements that didn't work the greatest for me. Now, you have a middle act that is just a little long and it feels like it's dragging, and then even some of the writing that doesn't necessarily always get it right, and sometimes, well, it's just way too over the top. But still, Not Okay to me is worth a watch on Hulu because you're going to get one of the best performances of the year from Mia Isaac, and you're also going to get a tale that, well, isn't really rooted in anything other than reality. Guys, we've seen this before. People have lied to get to the top, and it's been exposed on social media. It's not new, alright? But hey, not okay? It is okay. So I give it like a 3.5 out of 5. I think it's one of those movies that you throw up on Hulu and you're not going to be mad that you watched it. But when you do, guys, let me know down below in the comments if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, or if you're kind of right in the middle. And if you haven't already, hit the big red button below and subscribe to the channel for more reviews just like this, guys. And like I mentioned, San Diego Comic-Con is coming. That means I got to warm up my voice, get patient, and get ready to drop a ton of content. Alrighty, y'all. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening. And I promise, I ain't gonna be faking nothing for the gram.